Hey guys, this is Maysie Calzone, and welcome back to Maysie's Algebra Initiative. Today we're going to go over Unit 3. This consists of four main topics: input, output, domain and range, functions, which includes the vertical line test, and horizontal and vertical translations. Let's get to it. First up is input versus output. Input what goes into an equation, and output it what comes out of an equation. Usually these are called your x and your y values because typically your x value goes in and your y value goes out, but those are usually interchangeable with other variables. But the main thing you need to know is that inputs go in and outputs go out. So my inputs are 0, 1, and 2. My equation is x plus 3 equals y, and my outputs are 3, 4, and 5. So if I put my inputs to the equation, I'll get my output. In 0 for the x, 0 plus 3 is 3, 1 plus 3 is 4, 2 plus 3 is 5. Okay, here's some practice problems. Use the given input values and the equation to find out the output values. So you can pause the video now, solve out the answers, and then unpause it when you would like the answers. Okay, pause the video now. Okay, so here are the answers. When I plugged in my inputs for the first one, I got 0, 1, and 2. For the second one, I got 1, 2, and 3, and my work is shown in the middle. Next thing we're doing is domain and range. Domain is your y values, and your range is your x values. You learned what your coordinate points is down here. See how it's x and y, and green and yellow correspond with domain and range. So here's a few examples right here. And here's the example how it would show up in a chart down in your bottom left-hand corner. The x values are with the domain, and the y values with the y. The range values are with the y. Okay, here's some more practice problems identifying the domain and range from the given coordinate points. Pause the video now, and then unpause it for the answers. Okay, so my answers are as follows. For number 1, the domain is 3, 4, and 5, while the range is 2, 5, and 7. For number 2, the domain is -3, 2, and 0. And the range is 1, -1, and 4. And sometimes they'll ask you to write the domain and range in brackets like this. That's all according to what your teacher tells you. Okay, next up is functions. A function is a relationship between two variables. A function may have two x values that share a y value, but two y values may not share an x value. For example, down here, on the proper one, we have 1 and 3, two x values sharing the same y value, 0, and that's okay. But if I have two y values, 3 and 4, sharing an x value, 1, that is not okay. Now, when you are given a graph and you're asked if it's a function, you can use the vertical line test. The vertical line test helps us determine what a function is, like if a graph is a function. So how this works is that you'll get your pencil and you'll lightly draw vertical lines across the graph. If the graph crosses in only one point per line, it's a function. If it doesn't cross, if it crosses more than one point, it's not a function. Let me show you an example. So this one, I'm drawing vertical lines across the graph, and you notice how they only intersect in one point each? So this is a function. Good. Now let's try the next one. 1 point each. They don't overlap more than once. This is also a function. Whoops, let me get a green check mark. Now let's try this one. Uh-oh. See how this line crosses twice and this line crosses twice? That means this is not a function. Now, here's some more practice problems. Using your knowledge of functions and the vertical line test, determine if each relationship is a function. Pause the video now to work out the answers, work out the problems, and then unpause the video to see the answers. Okay, so For number 1, it is not a function because these two x values are shared by, this x value is shared by two y values. Number 2 is a function because there are no shared x values. They're all independent. There's nothing shared. For the graphs, the first one is not a function because these lines on the vertical line test cross the graph in more than one point. See, 1, 2, 1, 2. 2 points, more than 1 point. So it's not a function. But these two are because when you do the vertical line test, each line only crosses, each vertical line drawn only crosses the graph once, or the function indicated on the graph once. Okay, so now we're going to go over horizontal and vertical translations. We're going to start with horizontal translations. A horizontal translation is done, or just left and right shifts. Now, for the purpose of the base of horizontal and vertical translations, the base graph I'm going to use today is y equals x squared, and it looks like this. This is what y equals x squared looks like. Now, when it comes to horizontal translations, you can either add a number or subtract a number to the x. When you add a number, it shifts to the left, as indicated by this second example here. When you subtract a number, it shifts to the right. And when it comes to these, horizontal translations must happen with inside and next to the x, and it's usually within a parentheses, not always, but a lot of the time. So when it's written like this, you know that there's a horizontal shift because the x is inside. Now, vertical translations are the complete opposites. These are shifts up and down. Here's our base graph again on the left. And in the middle, we have a shift up. And it's the opposite because it's outside, away from the x. You notice how it's no longer in parentheses with the x squared. Squared with the x. It's on its own now. And a positive, so a +2, indicates a shift up 2, while a negative, a subtraction, indicates a shift down. Here's a quick recap on translations. If it's in or out, inside the parentheses or outside the parentheses, and if x is subtracted from something or x is added to something. By the way, these top two things can be substituted with next to x, but most likely will be in a parenthesis of some kind. It'll be obvious when it comes. Okay, so let's remember, if it's inside the parentheses, we know these are going to be horizontal translations. If it's outside, it's going to be vertical translations. So if it's x minus and it's inside the parentheses, it's right. If it's x minus and it's outside the parentheses, it's going to be down. X plus in the parentheses is going to be a left shift, and x plus outside the parentheses is going to be an up shift. I think I meant to say x plus inside is a left shift. So here's a table that will help you out if you need it. Okay, here's some practice problems. Using the base graph, translate and write the equation for the translations given. Pause the video now to solve it out, and unpause the video when you want the answers. Okay, so here's our practice problems. We have our base graph here, and when we go up 3, remember going back to our chart, up 3 is outside the parentheses and positive. So we are outside the parentheses and it's a positive 3, adding 3. So that's what it looks like. And for the left, for number 2, when we shift left 2, going back to our chart, left would be a positive adding to the x and inside the parentheses. So we put the +2 next to the x, and it's a +2, not a -2. Okay guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope this video helped you. Any questions, just leave comments or ask your teacher. This is Maysie Calzone for Maysie's Algebra Initiative, signing off.